Alright, hello everyone. I'm going to showcase my Siege Cascade build here on Uber Zesty. And yeah, as you can see, it's basically a one skill setup. I just run around, use Siege Cascade, everything blows up. Pretty simple. I do have two other skills that I can utilize, but I just don't really use them. You can use the little ballista turret there to kind of, further pin things. Or I can use my banner for some extra damage and attack speed, but generally speaking, when mapping or, doing breaches or temple or whatever, you don't really need the extra damage or anything. Just everything dies. Siege Cascade is not utilized all that often, but it's a pretty amazing skill. Because what it does is, as you can see, you shoot it up into the air, and then a bolt comes down for every enemy on the field, basically. So you just shoot once, and, a dozen bolts come crashing down. And what those bolts do is they do an initial, burst of energy or damage that's, maybe it's like 300, I want to say it's like 350%, 400%, something like that, attack damage. And then it explodes. And that explosion does something like 1,600% damage, 2,000% damage. Is crazy how much damage that explosion does once the bolt drops down into the ground. And the attack as a whole has this really cool mechanic to it, where it does an extra 140% damage if the thing you're attacking is immobilized. And that's just baked into the skill. Once you quality it up, it gives you 140% extra damage, that's a lot of. It's 140% more. I'll show you. So yeah, 140% more against immobilized enemies. So the initial attack damage, okay, when you have it, beefed up and it's at level 32 with all the extra stuff you're giving to it, then yeah, 314 damage, and then the explosion is, okay, 1100. 1100%, that's huge. And then, so what you're looking at is when you go into these numbers here, let's look at this explosion. The average damage per use is, 127,000. Well, 127,000 times 140 when they're immobilized. Ridiculous. And of course, we're using the Tactician, and everything is pinned. Just everything is pinned all the time. And then we're using this, and it takes enemies immobilized by you take 20% more damage, and immobilize enemies at 50% buildup instead of 100. Ridiculous. 50% buildup. So you pin things really quickly. Sometimes even bosses just end up getting stun locked. You'll just keep pinning them. It's kind of wild. When you are going to fight a boss, you always want to drop your turret down for some extra pin, and then you want to drop your Mirage there again for some extra pin too. I usually just don't even bother messing with anything else. It's usually just they get... Okay, so he'll last a little bit longer than getting one shot, but not much longer. Yeah, see, and then he's just pinned again. And there he goes. And that's what it looks like when you fight Arbiter. That's what it looks like when you fight anything. They're gone. Goodbye. Oh, wow, that's fun. Isn't that worth like a bunch of divs? Okay. Let's see how much that's worth, because I'm gonna do a giveaway here. I'm done with the league, so I'm gonna give away all my divs. But, anyway, so let me finish explaining to you, this build. So, the important thing is the skills. Okay, so, like I said, Siege Cascade, I explained what it does. It's the main skill, and the way that I'm able to just keep firing it off is with Wrath's Assault. Dodge. the bolts are loaded in again. And what's really cool about that too is if you have, you know, your main crossbow, or you know, if you have two crossbows basically, and both of them have this skill loaded into it, then it loads both your main set. So like, look, you see that's going down on my R1 there, down to, you know, 2, and then I'll put my R2 down to 2, and then if you reload both of them, I mean, if you dodge, both of them reload. You know, both sets, both weapon sets, which is pretty freaking cool because basically, you know, you have 10 shots then. I can just unload 10 shots and then, you know, do a little dodge, and then now I've got, you know, the full 10 shots. That's just so much damage. You don't really need anything more than that. So, along with that, in our weapon set 1, we have Herald of Plague and Herald of Blood. We're just strictly going off of physical damage here. So the crossbow, for instance, heavy physical damage. Leech's physical damage is life. Gain 25% of damage as extra physical. We're going hardcore into physical. And then even, yeah, this unique belt here, the coil. I get an extra 39% more maximum physical and 30% less minimum physical. So basically I get an extra 9% more physical damage, basically what it comes out to. You can get better rolls where it's, you know, 10, 12, 13% extra basically, but I went with this one because it has the extra cold resistance, which I needed to max out my resistances. So because we do all that physical damage, poison and bleed, they do real. I mean, they all their damage comes from physical. So I'm not doing any elemental damage. I'm just strictly focusing on physical, which really skyrockets the damage when you are adding in bleed and poison. And so Siege Cascade, when you look at it here, I have it set up to where when we go down and look at the ailments, main hand chance to bleed is at 100%, and main hand chance to poison is at 118. And the way we got that set up is I did go ahead and make the I grabbed this gem here, poison 3, it's get 60% chance to poison, but then in my skills I have a bunch of extra chance to inflict ailments. It's basically right at 100%, and so I have my bleed chance to inflict total is at 50%, and then when you add in the extra 100% chance to inflict from my skill points, it brings that 50% up to 100, and it brings the poison 60 basically up to 120. So it's basically how that works. So we got these two gems here, and then projectile acceleration is pretty cool because if you don't use it, the Siege Cascade bolts are kind of slow, and they don't always hit what you're tracking. If something's running towards you, you'll shoot it up into the air, and then it lands behind them. But when you use this, along with projectile speed nodes in the skill tree, they go really fast, and then they hit really hard. Typically, it's just a lot better. And then also it gives more damage, because this says increases and reductions to projectile speed also apply to damage. So it gives you better speed for the projectiles and damage. It's great. Deliberation, this one's pretty cool. I used to go with Brutality, because Brutality gives you 30% extra physical, but the problem is it says you can't do any chaos damage or any elemental. Of course, we don't care about the elemental, but chaos damage we do care about, because poison is chaos damage. So when you put Brutality on this, it turns poison off. You can't use it. So Deliberation is just the next best thing. It makes you move a little slow, but that's fine. It doesn't really matter us moving slowly when we're using the skill, because everything's not moving around us. They're getting pinned and dying anyway. It doesn't really matter. And then Heft, for some extra damage. And then in our skills, in our weapon set 1, you know, we're using Siege Cascade, and we're using Herald of Plague and Herald of Blood. I do have Deadly Herald set up here, just a little extra damage for the poison. And yeah, this basically, what this does is it just spreads poison around. So we're already poisoning everything with Siege Cascade, and we're poisoning everything, actually with Herald of Blood, because I even have this set up with a chance to poison. So this Herald of Blood, it explodes things that are bleeding. So what will happen is something will be bleeding, and it will explode, and then that explosion actually will also poison people. So we're just spreading a whole bunch of poison, and then what this does is spreads the most damaging poison on enemies you kill. So the poison's just spreading all over the place, and it's just a lot of damage. Things die really, really quickly. Also have Bone Shrapnel set up here. Trigger Bone Shrapnel explosions on killing pinned enemies. So Herald of Blood, already explosions, and then more explosions. It's pretty cool. And then this just gives extra poisons, admixture, just extra magnitude of poison and bleeding. And then Bursting Blade, more explosions. Poisons from supported skills also add 100% of damage per second to enemy as Plague, and Plague just makes them explode. It's pretty great. So that's kind of weapon set 1. Also, we are, at all times, even weapon set 1 or 2, utilizing Eternal Rage and Berserk. Eternal Rage just means that you always have your rage maxed out, because you're just always regenerating rage. So right now my rage is at 48. And so, of course, that gives you an extra 48% more, multiplicative more damage. And then Berserk, you lose a bunch of life per second, but we fix that in other ways. But it grants you 68% increased rage effect. So you basically take that 48% more rage damage and then multiply it by 68. You know, you end up getting something like 80-something percent more damage from these two skills. It's crazy. And the way that we get over the damage or the life that we're losing per second, you notice my life is going down a little bit, because it's not going down super fast, but a little bit, and then it comes back up because I have that that healing aura on. I forget what it's called, but so it's going down a little bit, but then I just heal it back up. It's not too big of a deal. The way it would be going down too fast to where it will kill you if it weren't for these two gems here. Well, I'm using, I guess it's just the one. Vitality 2. You can also use Vitality 1, but, you know, just regenerate life, maximum life per second, to kind of counteract that life loss from Berserk. Because, yeah, it's like it's almost 5% maximum life, so you need a bit of help. So this will give you a 2% maximum life that you're gaining, and then oh, and I get extra actually from some of my let's see, from some of my, yeah, there we go, 18 life regeneration per second. I have a couple of things where it gives me life per second in my armor and weapons, and then even in the passives, if you need it, you can do here. That's regenerate maximum life per second, or over here regenerate, yeah, life per second. You can utilize those if you need to. I don't typically end up needing it though, because as you can see, it just goes down a little bit and it heals right back up because of Time of Need. Time of Need's really nice. It's just a buff that, you know, periodically heals you, and it removes curses and elemental elements. You know, some bosses and a lot of, you know, enemies and maps and things, certain maps, you know, you'll have a bunch of curses on it, and you basically just don't give a shit about the curses when you have this. It's pretty cool. So, that's all of the skills. Artillery Ballista, we have that set up with rapid attacks, urgent totems, just so it's a little faster, magnified area, blind, so it blinds enemies, and then projectile acceleration so that it goes faster. We don't really care about this doing damage. Basically, what this is for is we just care about it having pin. It says deployed a ballista that rains down a salvo of pinning bolts. So let's see, how do I, oh yeah, that's right. So like when you look at these bolts, pretty cool. The damage is not very much. The attack damage is 50%, but pins enemies as though it's dealing 600% more damage. So it does a shit ton of pin. So it's just really, and a huge AoE. It's really good against you know, evasive enemies and that kind of thing. You're pinning them with this. It's good against bosses. Just helps you to continue to stun lock them, which is pretty great. And then along with that, we are utilizing Mirage Archer in our weapon set 2. So this is 60 Spirit. and then these two are 60 spirit. And so I just swap them both out in weapon set 1 and weapon set 2, just so that, you know, right before a boss, I'll go to weapon set 2, and then I'll dodge roll, and then my Mirage Archer's out, and then he's just, you know, shooting at the boss, doing the same things I'm doing. He's not doing, of course, anywhere near as much damage, but he is bleeding, he is poisoning the enemy here, you can see. He's doing a shit ton of pin, so it's just a great skill to have. And the fact that we can just, you know, switch to weapon, you know, switch between weapon set 1 and then weapon set 2, and then, you know, we've got him out, it's pretty great. So, I'll just show you what skills I have set up there. Yeah, so streamline rounds. What I have him set up for is I have him set up so that when he comes out, he's got a shit ton of bolts. So this gives him extra bolts. He does do less damage, but that's fine. And he has 50% more attack speed, so he has more bolts. Because so you don't want your Mirage Archer having to reload. It's stupid. You know, you bring him out and he's just reloading and not firing. It's dumb. Just give him a bunch of bolts and then give him ammo conservation so that 30% of the time he doesn't use his bolts. So basically, usually he ends up shooting, you bring him out, he ends up shooting like 8 or 9 bolts, and then he's just done. And then usually by that time, his timer's up anyways, so you're good. You know, these two right here are pretty cool. And then, of course, you got to put in a Siege Cascade, so that's what he uses. Then you add in that so that he always poisons, just like, you know, you're adding that for Herald of Blood, so the Herald of Blood always poisons. And then, yeah, just again, projectile acceleration so that Siege Cascade comes down quickly. So, time of need, of course, you want to always use this, compressed duration, it just makes it to where your heals come out faster. And then, War Banner is pretty dope. I don't even think I remembered to use it against the boss, I don't even think I needed it, but, it's fantastic. When you look, just because of the buffs I have on it, you go down to Advanced Info and look at the buffs. It lasts 20 seconds here under banner duration, 20 seconds. It has a huge aura radius, it's massive. And then it grants 30%, 31% extra damage and 31% extra attack speed. It's fantastic. You could utilize it in bosses, or, you know, if you're in, like, I don't know, just a tough area and there's a lot of enemies, you're in Breach or something, you want to drop one down. You're in a temple in a tough room, you want to drop one down. It's fantastic. And you can utilize it pretty much all the time because of this gem right here. This one requires 50% less glory. You can just use it all the time. And it has a huge duration because of that. It has a huge area effect because of these two. Massive area effect. And then, yeah, just we added Vitality to it, of course, for the extra life per second. So I think that's all of the skills. Oh, wait, Scavenge Plating, of course, yes. Scavenge Plating, you get, when you break enemies' armor and everything we attack, we break their armor, you get extra armor. So up to 10 times 4. It's basically 40% extra armor. And we are building solely on armor, and so it just gives you a shit ton of extra armor, which is great. And then we pretty much don't take damage, and we don't die. I think that's all of our skills. So then, let's go into the passive tree. So we're doing Tactician, of course, because projectile damage builds pin. It's fantastic. If you're not utilizing Tactician, you're using some other build, then you have to use that pin gem. I don't want to look at it right now, but the problem with the pin gem is that the support skill is you add it into an attack, and then now that attack does pin damage, but it also does like a whole bunch less pin. So it's just not ideal. This, you do a shit ton of pin, and you're just pinning enemies, as you saw, pretty much instantly. You know, if you're mapping or something like that, and then bosses are getting pinned really quickly. And then it has this extra effect that pinned enemies are just stunned. Normally pinned, what it means is they just can't move, but this adds that pinned enemies can't fucking do anything. They can't attack, they can't move. It's fantastic. So that is awesome. That's just, and then, you know, you get more pin build up. I mean, this is just great. Then we utilize a solid plan. Persistent buffs have 50% less reservation. Basically, it doubles your spirit. ridiculous. That's how we're able to fit all of this stuff in here. It's because it pretty much doubles your spirit, which is nasty, giving you a whole bunch of extra defense, a whole bunch of extra damage. It's awesome. And then this, we went hard in to polish that gear. Now what this does is that you gain deflection rating equal to 20% of your armor. So deflection rating is this buff, basically, that, let's go down to it. Deflection, you get a chance to deflect from hits, preventing 40% of the damage from those hits. So normally deflection is linked with evasion, and so you get a small percentage of your evasion will give you deflection chance. So our deflection chance is, as you can see, 42%, but our effective chance to deflect is 66% because of this over here. This key passive here, you chance to deflect is lucky, so it rolls that deflection chance twice. Chance to evade is unlucky. So we don't care if our chance to evade is unlucky because we have no evasion. Our, look at our evasion, it's 0%. We don't have evasion, we're not utilizing it. So basically, instead of evasion and deflection being utilized together, we're using armor and deflection together, which is just super nasty. Our deflection, or estimated effective chance to deflect, when you have that 40% extra armor from that aura buff, it ends up being like 75%. So 75% of the time, you're deflecting, which means you take 40% less damage. Nasty. Along with our already huge armor that we have going on, armor's at 27,000. With the extra 40% buff, it's like 36,000 armor. And then our armor is also being applied to elemental and to chaos. So armor, it's fantastic. If you utilize it the right way, it's really, really good. I mean, look at it. We have 30,000 extra added to elemental damage. It ends up with the buff being like 40,000% extra. I mean, 40,000 extra armor that's being applied to elemental and a whole bunch to chaos. It's really, really good. So because we're utilizing this, we want our armor to be as frickin' high as possible, because the higher your armor is, the higher your deflection rating is, and the higher your armor is against elemental and against chaos and everything. So the way we're doing that is on the skill tree, we're not doing much to add to armor. It's basically just here and here. That's, well, here, and then down below I'll show you. But this, 80% increased armor from equipped body armor. That's really good. Really, really good if you have a body armor that it has really high armor, which we do. We have the unique armor that is the highest armor in the entire game, the Brass Dome. Pretty sure they buffed this season, but yeah, I mean, this piece right here, you can get it a little higher if you want to spend all the divs, but it's 4,000 armor. Oh, and you take no extra damage from critical hits. Pretty freaking cool. Bunch of extra stun threshold too. You never get stunned when things are hitting you. You just don't give a shit, and we're leeching life the whole time. Basically, when you're leeching life the whole time, because of this here, remember, leeches 9.7% of physical damage is life. We got that from the crossbow. When you're leeching life the whole time in maps or anywhere else, basically the only way that you can die is if you stop leeching life. Like if you're frozen, which we never get frozen, or if you're stunned, which, by the way, I guess we hardly ever, really never get stunned. Stun threshold here, and then we get stun threshold here, because we gain additional stun threshold equal to 30% of our armor on our equipped armor items. It's just a huge amount of stun threshold. So we never get stunned, never get frozen. We're just leeching life. If things are damaging us, we just don't really give a shit, because you never hardly ever see our HP ever drop down because of the life leech. It's crazy. So we have this ability, the increased armor from equipped armor. We have that on our on the skill tree. We have that on a gem on Heart of the Well Diamond. Down here, 51% increased armor from equipped body armor. Pretty cool. We also have that on our amulet. You see there down at the bottom, 42% increased armor from equipped body armor. So all that extra armor, it just really adds up. It really, really adds up. That's why you see that number down there is at 27,000. it's really high, and that's just a lot of defense. It's great. So we also have some extra armor here, and it's not too big of a deal. 25% increased armor, and then, you know, the extra stun threshold. That's about it. Besides, the only other thing that we have on here, this is just all damage. This is all damage, killing things, pinning things, breaking armor here, ailments, you know, doing damage, bleed, and that kind of thing. The only other extra defense thing that we have here, defense node here, is this. Converts all evasion rating to armor. And the reason why we have that is just because you get a little bit extra armor from, like, this unique here. You know, I mean, it's nothing huge, but it does have 96 evasion, and so because you have this, it converts all evasion to armor. You know, you get a little extra armor from that. And then also, it turns the evasion that you can get on rings into armor. So that's, I mean, this is just 150 extra armor. It's useful. 190 extra armor. Useful. You can get boots that are armor and evasion. And then, I mean, this is basically the equivalent of getting, you know, boots that are, you know, 420 extra armor. And that's not always easy to do. You know, it's not always easy to get boots that are that high of armor. So, yeah, so we're just adding extra defense there. So, other than that, if we were just going to kind of finish up the skill tree here, we're doing this stuff here for the extra. Remember, I said you need basically an extra 100% chance to inflict ailments. And if you have that, an extra 100%, then it multiplies, you know, your 50% chance to inflict bleed. 50 times 100, you know, it moves that 50% chance to bleed up to 100%. That's how I showed you earlier how the Siege Cascade is at 100. So you've got 10 here, 10 here, and then 25. This is 25 total. So 20 up there, 5 here, and then we've got an extra 10 here on our diamond here, 10%. So it's like 35 there, and then basically this thing, small passes and radius also grant 1% chance to inflict bleed. And as you see, we're using a whole bunch of 1% here. You end up getting your chance to inflict up to 50%, and then your chance to inflict ailment here, 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 ends up getting it up to 100%, so that's pretty cool. So I already showed you, so that's how we're poisoning, that's how we're bleeding, and then this is how we break armor. This note here, break 50% of armor on pinning an enemy. And we pin everything, so then their armor breaks automatically if you can bring that 50% up to 100, and so then all you have to do is you just have to get nodes like this, break 40% increased armor. You got to get that up to 100. So this one is 40, this one is 10, and then this one down here is 20, so we're at 70%, and then this over here is 30, because hits break 30% increased armor on targets with ailments, and, well, we have a 100% chance to bleed and to poison, so everything's already bleeding and poisoned. You know, they already have an ailment, so then that's, you know, that brings it up to 100. So we got some extra rage here, some extra, oh, I guess this is another defensive thing, some extra armor applies to elemental. This is a pretty cool jewel. Extra chance to bleed, increase armor break duration, increase bleeding duration. I like this one a lot. This is pretty cool. This over here is giving us a bunch of life leech, which is really useful because we're doing so much physical damage. Life leech, you can't life leech off of elemental or chaos or anything, so if we're doing such heavy physical damage, oh, and then this is this giving us extra physical over here. I have this whatever the word is, socketed or whatever on our amulet, anointed on the amulet, extra physical there, so that's great. So we're doing a bunch of extra physical. We're getting life leech from our crossbow, and then we get extra life leech, extra physical damage here, and then this node here is pretty dope. Life leech effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. So basically what that means is life leech it goes on for like 2 or 3 seconds. You're draining life from the enemy as you're doing physical damage to them for 2 or 3 seconds. Well, if your life is full, the effect does not work. It's just not doing anything if your life is already full. But what this does is when your life is full, if you utilize the life leech by shooting things, then as you're taking damage, your life will go down, but the life leech kicks in immediately because you already did damage. It's kind of hard to explain, but long story short, that's how you look at my HP and it just never moves. It's because of that, because I'm just constantly leeching life. It never stops. So it's a really, really good node. This over here is chance to inflict, and then just extra physical. This is really good because it's extra physical damage and projectile speed. And if you remember, because of that gem that we're using on Siege Cascade, all of our projectile speed is transferred into projectile damage also. So this is just a really, really good, this is good stuff. Like this right here, that's an extra 35% damage. And yeah, so that's great. This over here, just a little extra damage against bleeding, and then extra pin buildup. And then bleeding you inflict on pinned enemies is aggravated. Basically just doubles the bleed damage on anything that's pinned. And we're always pinning, we're always bleeding. That's freaking great. I only have my weapon set 1 and 2 points going there, just a little extra damage. And then going like here, just a little extra... enemies are maimed for 4 seconds after becoming unpinned. It's kind of nice. But mainly I'm utilizing it for this, because this is going into weapon set 1. And that's, you know, Herald skills have 25% increased area effect and damage. It's really nice for the Herald of Poison and the Blood Herald. It's really good. These over here are really good pin duration, and then this is really great. 35% increased critical hit chance against immobilized enemies. So you just end up doing a lot more crits because of that, which is great. This is a more projectile damage and speed. Fantastic. And a little area effect. This is really cool because enemies are intimidated for 4 seconds when you immobilize them. Where do you even ever hear that? Intimidated. It's pretty cool. Intimidated is a debuff that inflicts 10% increased damage taken and 10% reduced damage. So you're doing 10% more damage because they're intimidated, and they do 10% less damage. So that's freaking cool for 4 seconds whenever you immobilize them. And you're always immobilizing things, you're just doing more damage, taking less damage. It's great. Obviously this is just extra damage for two-handed weapons. I do this just for the extra damage and the strength because I ended up needing it, because this right here is all maxed out and exactly how much I needed it. I need 147 strength for level 19 berserks. You see 147, so that's maxed out there. I need 91 dex, basically 89 dex there for the crossbow, and then 42. I think that's a combination of, I need that for, 32 int for that, and then I need 42 int for the time of need. It's int 42. So yeah, I think that's about it. I think that explains how this all works. Got a extra +3 to Siege Cascade here. I think I already showed you that gem over there. This one again is pretty dope. Oh, one thing about this, the extra critical damage is kind of nice. Inflict on bleeding, chance to inflict bleeding, super necessary. Extra increased armor from equipped armor, super necessary. But the gain 11% of damage is extra lightning. I didn't even really pay attention to that when I got it because I was just getting it for the bleed and the armor. But that actually is really goated, honestly, because it's just a little bit extra damage. It counts as lightning. It's really super useful though against bosses because it shocks them, and when they're shocked, let's see, yeah, extra lightning, yeah, it does. Lightning hits have a chance to shock, and then when they're shocked, they just take 20% increased damage. It's great. So that little node right there on that Heart of the Well, I get to do 20% increased damage to bosses. Freaking great. So yeah, I'll go over my items real quick, and then I think we're good to go. Yeah, that's the crossbow. I usually focus on the rings on physical, evasion, and max life for the prefixes. So physical, evasion, max life. I wanted to do that here as well, but I just ended up rolling when I was crafting these
tier 1 lightning, so I just went with it. That's fine. But you know, lightning, evasion, life, and then other than that, I'm just going for resistances. You see, that's all resistances. That's all resistances. I just crafted these. On the amulet, like I said, I got material solidification for the extra physical and damage against broken armor. You have to get something that's got high spirit, because as you can see, you know, we go to toggle here. We're utilizing all of this spirit. I mean, I've only got 3 left there. I've got 8 left there. We're utilizing all of it. So we need all the extra spirit we can get from this. And then I just got extra